Welcome, everybody. We are so thrilled to welcome you to this Zoom. I think it may be one of the most helpful, most empowering Zooms we have done. And that's saying a lot because we've done a lot of them. I am Debbie Walton. I've been in fitness and wellness for 45 years. I'm certified in plant-based nutrition through Cornell, and I love empowering others. I met our guest speaker many years ago at a nutraceutical conference, and I knew within a very short period of time that she was a special woman. Dr. Candace Corson is a Yale graduate. She didn't get just her undergraduate at Yale. She got her doctorate from Yale. But you know what I love most about her? She is one of the most compassionate, kind human beings I have ever met. And she is brilliant. So when I asked her, would she share on gut health for us? And she said, yes, we were beyond thrilled. So Dr. Corson, I'm going to just ask you a few questions and let you run with it. Welcome, welcome. Only in America, only in the last few years has research uncovered the incredible influence gut health has on our totality of health and mental health. So could you please share with us just a little bit about how the gut works and how influential it is, whether we have a healthy gut or an unhealthy gut?
Yes, you're so right, Debbie. The impact is huge, and it's more exciting all the time as more is learned by advances in modern science. It really goes back to what Hippocrates said: "Let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food." And Hippocrates was talking about, the foods that will feed our entire system to its highest good, so that it can do the self-repair that's programmed in and allow the whole system to work its best and also recover from injuries every day, all kinds of injuries, whether it's just oxidative stress or, a laceration, or just so many things that we wear ourselves down too fast in the modern world, let's put it that way. And it's specifically plant foods that are the most important. So let me just take it back just a step. We know that when we feed ourselves, we're feeding an ecology inside of us, a whole ecology. And some people call those the little good guys. The children love that, the little good germs. We know that there are thousands of different species of germs or single-celled organisms in the gut, and they need to be in the high trillions. In fact, there are generally, in a healthy grown-up, about 10 times more of those good germs than there are cells in the human body. So we're really outnumbered. We have cells in our body, brain cells, heart cells, bone cells, but we have 10 times more than that cells that are the little good guys in our gut. And that's as it should be. The thing is, it needs to be a balance where the good guys are in charge, the good guys are in control, and they literally keep the bad guys from having a party and going haywire. And we have so many things in today's world that interfere with this process. One of the chief things is antibiotics, and there's a time and place for those. What a blessing when it's really crucial that a person receive an antibiotic to help either slow down or kill organisms that are causing destruction in the body. But we have overused them environmentally and by the person. And when we do that, we're always trying to do the right thing. But when we do that, we're setting people up for long-term failure because we're destroying good germs. It's always a double-edged sword. Whenever we have to use an antibiotic, we're always causing damage. And sometimes it may be worth it, but then we've got to do repair. But the happier thing that I like to do is focus on reducing the need for antibiotics long term. And that's getting a healthier immune system that can fight better and is less inflamed and less prone to things out of balance that get infected over time. And the only way I've ever seen that works to do that is a plant-rich nutrition pattern. So going plant-based as far as a person wants to, or as far as they can, that has wonderful ramifications because we're feeding the good guys. It turns out that they eat plants. The good guys are plant eaters. The good guys are vegan. They're plant eaters. And we don't necessarily, all of us humans, have to be strict vegans. Sometimes that really helps people's health. When I've seen people do that, it's been remarkable. But the point is not that we have to be strict vegans. The point is we need a huge rainbow of plant foods because the different species of the good guys, the good germs, eat different kinds of food. So the bigger the rainbow of fresh, high quality plant foods, the more we will be feeding the right kinds of organisms that grow up by the trillions together and work together. And collectively, many people call that the microbiome. It really microbiome refers to the genetic code of all these good little guys. But sometimes we just call the whole thing, the whole ecology, the microbiome. And the thing is, we didn't really know, we couldn't find them until recent years because you can't culture most of these good little guys. You cannot culture them in the laboratory. Why? Because they're too delicate. They will only grow in a healthy human gut. Therefore, you cannot culture them in the lab. Therefore, you cannot make a truly great probiotic that you can buy off the counter because you can't culture them and grow them in the lab. And so the way that people started finding out more, and so much is still yet to be found, is through genetic sequencing. So each little guy has her or his own, they have their own genetic sequence. Each species has its own genetic sequence, and that's how we know that they're separate from each other, but they work together. And we want to have more of the good ones than the problematic ones. So most people know if they've had to have a lot of antibiotics, that some untoward things can happen. A lot of times they'll end up with yeast infections that they do not want because the yeast have a party and they're fungi in the fungal kingdom. They're not affected by antibiotics and they just take off and have a party because the good guys have been injured. That's just one example. But I'll give you an example of one of the patients I saw years ago who had a pretty healthy life. And once she reached 50, she was still doing well until she had a bad car wreck. She was able to survive. We've got a train here. I might need to have, is it bad? Debbie, can you still hear? It's not bad. Let me know and then we'll have you take over because you're so eloquent. But because of the car wreck, she had what we call an open fracture. That's a bone that's broken with open skin over it. So a cut over a fracture isn't called an open fracture. It means it's open to the world. This is not good. She required a whole lot of antibiotics for months. And that's when her asthma started. Hello, that's when her asthma started. Never had asthma before. That's a pretty common story if you're in medicine long enough. A big bunch of antibiotics, as grateful as we are for them, it changes the gut balance. It injures the good guys as well as the bad guys. And then the inflammatory burden goes up. We call it upregulation of inflammation. And it always occurs when you get rid of the good guys. So it's just interesting. We know that asthma is one of my favorite subjects as I love to help people get better. Through knowledge, and what they eat is a big, huge factor in it. But what we know is that if you have one course of antibiotics before age 1 year old, before 12 months old, one course, like 7 days or 10 days, your lifetime risk of asthma doubles if you look at a large population. So want to avoid the unnecessary use, and we want to help people be healthier because they're eating more plant-based, and therefore they have more good germs to fight infection appropriately and be less inflamed, because a lot of time infection takes place in inflamed areas. When people have allergies and they have more mucus, which is a healthy thing to try to rinse all that out, the bad germs take advantage of that to grow in. So less inflammation, more balanced, better immune fighting capacity. And not only do our good germs do that for us in the gut, they do basically all our digestion. They do our digestion, they help our assimilation, they regulate, they make vitamins for us that are essential. They make vitamin K and other vitamins. They make anti-cancer substances for us every day. And they make the vast majority of our brain happy, important messengers. So they make our serotonin and so forth. Most of it is made in the gut. It's used in the brain, but it's made in the gut. And that's why a patient told me years ago, and I didn't understand it till years had passed, said, you know, my husband is so depressed after this last round of antibiotics. I think he got depressed from the antibiotics. And I told her, I thanked her for that observation. I didn't know how to explain it, but I put it in the back of my head. And then years later, same thing happened to me. The only antibiotics I have needed in 21 years since starting on Juice Plus and having a better immune system. And I was eating well. I only did it to help my kids in the Healthy Starts for Families program after their school introduced vending machines to them and they stopped eating plants. It's the only reason I started Juice Plus 21 years ago. And I'm so grateful I did because it's made a wonderful difference throughout my whole family. But what I have had to use is 4 different rounds of doxycycline for acute Lyme disease from tick bites. And after that 4th round, which was about over a 3-year period, I really was not a happy camper anymore. It took me quite a while to get back to my happy self. It took a lot of Juice Plus, which I totally believe in that, concentrated food, plant food. And then my husband started making sauerkraut, which is a good, healthy, probiotic food. Lots of good germs are in there. And all you need for that is organic cabbage. It has to be organic or it won't grow properly. And then a little pinch of salt. And you can look up the exact amount. And the water in the sauerkraut comes from the plant, the cabbage, and the good germs come from the cabbage. And you have a probiotic food. So let me just define a few things. We know antibiotics, which were developed in the 1940s, a wonderful breakthrough to save a lot of lives. I'm very attached to that because I know how many lives have been saved by that. And then the term probiotic, meaning the good guys. And I see a lot of people spend time, effort, and money. I don't say it's always a wasted effort. And if they have a great naturopathic doctor, somebody who really knows what they're doing and maybe helping them choose a decent or useful probiotic over the counter, great, but it's not as good as probiotic food. And those would be things like sauerkraut is the kind you don't cook. You don't cook it because then you kill the probiotics in there. And things like miso, which is a Japanese fermented soy, miso, M-I-S-O, wonderful food. So things like that are good probiotic sources. And then there is a wonderful term I want to mention called psychobiotics. And that's just a term for the impact of having healthy germs or not in our gut that make the brain hormones that I was talking about, the brain messengers. And that's a whole field called psychobiotics. There's a lot more to be learned about that, but we know, like in my case, and the case of my patient whom I couldn't help years ago because I didn't understand it, I had to have a lot of good, healthy probiotics, which are probiotics, the good germs in that sauerkraut and other fermented foods. And here's the really important part of our talk tonight, prebiotics. That's the bottom line point here. P-R-E. Prebiotics are the foods, which are plant foods, that the good germs must grow on. And the only way they can get them is for us to eat those plant foods and feed those good germs. So that's the deepest point for tonight. If anybody's taking notes or wants to remember, is prebiotic foundational food is plant food. That's the most important category of food for human beings. Yes, we need calories. Those are precious and very special. And if you eat your calories in the form of plant foods or as much plant-based as you can, then you're going to have prebiotic foods to feed your good germs. And that's when everything changes for the better. So I hope that's helpful. I'll stop talking there. And Debbie,
I love that. I love all that, and you mentioned, the importance of functional foods, the plants. And just today I was listening to the Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine, and there was a GI doctor from Britain, and he said only in America has he ever seen at a pharmacy an aisle for Twinkies, and 2 aisles over, he went to CVS to get some melatonin, and 2 aisles over were all the antacids. And he said that 1 out of every 3 Americans have acid reflux and many of them are taking antacids. So that was pretty shocking to me. He said it's costing America $12 billion a year just for acid reflux. And a lot of people don't realize that is a gut issue. That is a gut issue. We're eating up with it. And so we found, you mentioned Juice Plus, and a lot of people on the call may not know that Juice Plus is concentrated plants, that they're vine ripened, they inspect the farms, they on a regular basis, they inspect the seeds, the care of getting this vine ripened produce to oxygen free environment in typically under 6 hours is extraordinary. And then it's flash dried at low temp, and it literally is, honey, I shrunk the plants. Okay. And so when we found it 18 years ago, my husband we didn't understand the gut connection then, right? But he was addicted to Coca-Cola and candy bars, and nothing I could do. Here I was teaching wellness, and I could not get him off of that. He didn't like the taste of vegetables. And when I found this, because it got a family member, actually, it brought her inflammation down so much, I was giving people lists of fruits and veg to eat, to because I knew that was the answer. I'd gone back to school and found out that plants were should be the greatest part of our diet, that we didn't understand the good guys in our gut were, growing on that. And so I just told him, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I looked at the research. It was the most researched nutritional in the world in top journals. I'm sure that's why you looked at it. And we got on it, never expecting. In 2.5 months, he looked at me and said, Debbie, why are things starting to taste too sweet? Juice Plus did for him what I could not do, because he could swallow, now it's 36 plants and more if you do the smoothie mix, without tasting it, because he didn't like the taste. And now he will go totally plant based many days. I never thought in a million years I would see that. So what attracted you to Juice Plus? And then what have you seen it do for some of your patients?
Mm-hmm. So it was the Healthy Starts for Families program that attracted me to Juice Plus. That's where a child, and usually it's their mother or father that gets their Juice Plus essentials for the mom or dad. It could be grandparent, could be godparent, could be a close friend of the family. When they get their Juice Plus, they can add, with the help of their affiliate, they can add a child. There's no red tape. It's a child. All we need is how old they are and their name, because how old they are means how much they're going to get of their free Juice Plus. And if they're loving it, it's 4 years free for each child. Eventually, it may be even more than that, but 4 years free for each child. There is no company on this planet that does this. And I fell in love with it. And it's not a temporary program, it's a permanent program. So that program started when I was still in the I'm too cool to look at this phase. So a very dear friend took the time to call and tell me day one, 30 years ago, 30 years ago, when Juice Plus became available. And I didn't have the space to see, I didn't have a need. I had 4 little boys. They were so little, they had to eat what we ate. There were no wheels. They weren't going anywhere. We ate pretty healthfully. And both my husband and I were medical doctors, busy, and we didn't have any health diagnoses that we were thinking of. But the other thing, and I always share this so freely, I'm passionate about this, I cannot swallow capsules. This is not a psychological problem. About 10%, maybe 15% in my experience of healthy grownups cannot swallow a standard size capsule, but they will not tell you. They will not tell you because they think there's something wrong with them. So they either won't order our product or they send it back. But the answer for most of them, like myself, is open the capsule. It's not sealed. The berry blend, the fruit, and the veggie, that trio, they're not sealed on purpose, easy to open. And it's the dried powdered produce that is so important. So for 21 years now, since I did pay attention, 21 years, I've been opening it and putting it in my water. I do it all at once in the morning. And I do double because of my age and a strong family history of Alzheimer's in my family. So I put 4 berry blend, 4 veggie blend, and 4 fruit blend in my water, shake it up, drink it, drink another glass behind it. It's very gentle, very gentle. I do that for all the people that have had bariatric surgery or lots of reflux, any GI upper problems. Just get rid of the capsule as long as they can stand the taste. It tastes like what it is. And sometimes that in itself is very reassuring to people. They open the capsule, they smell it, they taste it. It really is broccoli, kale, parsley in the greens. It really is cherries, orange, etc. But it's not sweet. Remember the sugar, they figured out how to not concentrate the sugar and not concentrate the salt. So it's very, very low in mineral salts and very, very low in sugar, which makes it ideal for human beings, period, from pregnancy through old age. It is not a mineral supplement. It's a phytonutrient supplement. And that's why we can double up, triple up, quadruple up, and we'll never get toxic. It's not a source of iron. It's nothing that there's no warning label on it other than just capsules. You don't give a bottle of capsules to a little kid, but the contents itself is safe for everybody. We start all the babies in our family and around the world at about 6 months old when they're starting their baby food. Before that, there should be nursing only, if at all possible, because that's the right food to feed the microbiome of a human baby. If they've got knocked off course, sometimes these things happen. Mommies are coping the very best they can. They try to do the best they can with formula. It's not going to be the same, but we have to do what we have to do. But then when they reach about 6 months old, they're starting baby food, we put that produce. We use all 3 blends in our family, the berry blend, the fruit blend, and the veggie blend in their baby food once a day. It's very convenient, pennies a day, and it's really healthy. And then once they're 4 years old, they can enter that free program, age 4 to 18, or college students. If they're full-time college, they're also free with their grown-up. So that's what got me interested. My children were doing well until their vending machine were installed at school. And that changed my perspective when I realized all the kids stopped eating plants that first week because they were getting Twix and Reese's and Pepsi. And what happened? We didn't know back then, 21 years ago. Now, Debbie, we know the microbiome changes quickly within a matter of days. And those organisms pretty much dictate metabolically what they want us to eat. It may sound strange to the novice who hasn't heard it before. It's the truth. People who have been around a long time, they know it's true. And that's why these kids, they did not want any more salads, no apples, no carrots, nothing. And it only took 4 months for my healthy 15-year-old to become a person with asthma. Never had asthma before. Wow. Really got my attention. And the thing that really kicked me over with this was my 13-year-old, my youngest son, came to me one day. He had developed acne during the same time frame. And he says, "Mom, could you please write me a prescription for antibiotics I can take every day for my face?" Well, that was it. That was it. I was very calm. I said, honey, I'll find you something better. I didn't know what it would be, but inside I was thinking, over my dead body, are you getting a for antibiotics every day? Because now I'm setting my son up inadvertently for autoimmune risk. Mm-hmm. The more antibiotics we use, especially young in life, the higher the risk of autoimmune problems. And so we don't want to do that. And nobody wants that. So getting healthier with food that's affordable, safe for everyone, the body knows how to recognize it and what to do with it. It's the best way to go. It's the best way. And it's a stepping stone, Debbie. I think that's what happened for your husband, I believe, is it's a stepping stone. It's metabolic reprogramming, the nature's way to do it. And that's why he wanted to eat healthy. The same thing happened with our kids. We took them out to the same restaurant we used to do twice a year for their report card, just to say thank you to you guys. Where do you want to go? And they always wanted to go to this restaurant, and they had the same menu always. And I would eat the coleslaw. They make great coleslaw. And the kids would get whatever they wanted, and they get a daiquiri, like a big, tall, like 2 feet tall, without alcohol. And, I knew it wasn't great. Today, nobody in my family would touch it with a 10-foot pole. It's not that we're too good. It's just that we've changed so much. But basically, it's sugar, water, GMO sugar water, and red food coloring, and some strawberries in there. Well, this was hilarious. They'd been on Juice Plus maybe 3 or 4 months, and they ordered the same thing. And I noticed, I didn't say anything because it was great to me. They both took a sip, and they they didn't take any more. They didn't know. And then one of them said to me, he says, Mom, I'm sorry, I ordered this. I can't drink it. And the other one goes, you know what, Mom, I think they have a new chef in that kitchen. This tastes horrible. And my husband and I were just cracking up. We were trying to not let them see us. We were so touched because it happened to our kids, just like we heard other people's kids it happen. I guess we had trouble believing it until we saw it, bottom line,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I was talking to my middle daughter today, and she was extremely picky, had a very limited, she would only eat 6 different plants when she was growing up without a fuss. I would make her taste things, but she's what I believe is a super taster, had a lot of extra taste buds on her tongue. And she eats so many plants now. I am so thankful. I told her, she started sending me pictures, and it's the metabolic programming that they get through flooding their body so easily with the capsules or the chewables they make as well. But, when I really came to understand, when I found Juice Plus, multivitamins were falling out of favor. Science was figuring out that was the best we knew. I call it old school now, that it was too few nutrients.
By far.
There's thousands and thousands of nutrients in fruits and veg, and a multivitamin had maybe 30 in supersized. And I really believe it is, well, research is showing it's either worthless or might be harming us. So I hope everyone will get more information on that if they're still taking a multi. But, plants have, that you mentioned, phytochemicals, the thousands of isoflavones, enzymes, polyphenols, chemopreventative, bioflavonoids. I mean, the list just goes on and on. They're wonderfully created
Yes.
perfectly for the biochemistry of the human body. So it's really changed. My daughter, the middle daughter, the picky eater, was the one that would bring the virus home. We were a healthy family because I did try to get 5 plants down my kids, and now we know the recommendation is 7 for kids, 9 to 13 for adults, and that's just the minimal. So back then we were getting 5 a day. We were the healthy family, but she would bring home the virus. And after 5 months, I believe it was, on Juice Plus, they had their well check. And my pediatrician wanted to know what in the world I had done for my daughter's immune system. She looked at the research and ordered for her and her son. And she said, it just makes good sense. So we just love proactive doctors like you. And
Yes.
and
They're
now there's research on gut health with Juice Plus. Could you share just real
Yeah.
briefly about
Yes.
that?
Absolutely. So there is a study, and just ask the person who shared this with you, and they can get you the research links. But yes, the impact of dried fruit and vegetable. By the way, if you're going to try to Google yourself, scientific research. My mom and dad were both biomedical researchers, so this came to me naturally. Not any great thing I did, but a lot of people don't realize you don't just put in Juice Plus, because that's a brand name, and it's the only brand that has this level of independent, scientific, rigorous research done by universities, not done by the company, and then submitted for peer reviews in top journals. And the top journals only pick, after peer review, that which they consider worthy of publication. So you can't buy your way into this stuff. 44 published peer-reviewed clinical papers from major institutions, hospitals, and universities around the world. There is nothing that comes close to that. There's no pharmaceutical on the market that has anything close to that number of rigorous, independent looks at it. But what we know to be true is if you just go ahead and put in Juice Plus, you'll. What I'm saying is, get the research links, which go right to the research. They call it, scientific people, they don't put a trade name. They don't go, okay, I'm researching the Tide brand of detergent. They call it concentrated juice powders, or they might call it fruit and vegetable and berry juice powders. This one is called a dried fruit and vegetable supplement. So you would miss it if you put Juice Plus in and think you're not finding anything. There's a lot. Just ask the person, you can see it. But this one, there's so many, but the one you had mentioned, Debbie, was at the University of Memphis, which happens to be one of the best places to study the microbiome. That's a lot of specialty knowledge there. And it just happens to be geographically close. It's not because of the location of our company in Tennessee. But one of the things they found that was so powerful is that there's a substance that the healthy germs produce to protect and fuel the lining of our gut. Super incredibly important. Without that, all kinds of carnage happens, because there's a lot of toxic material sitting there. If you don't have excellent protection, healthy cells lining that area, you're going to be in big trouble. And this particular substance is called butyrate, Butyrate, butyrate. The butyrate levels that they could measure non-invasively went up in that gut of those people getting this plant concentrate. So it's the real deal. We really need this. And what I call it is a stepping stone to better health. I call it gateway nutrition. Some people talk about gateway drugs. This is the other end of the spectrum. This is gateway nutrition. And it helps people in a compassionate, logical, scientifically proven, affordable, really smart way to get better health. And once you're not fighting your own chemistry and you're wanting to eat healthfully, you're on a roll and you can keep going with that. So I really love this way of helping families at all ages. Really, the only people who don't need Juice Plus are the nursing babies from birth to about 6 or 7 months old when they start baby food. Everybody else, yes. And then for those people that are in unfortunate circumstances where their gut, their airway or something is really messed up, maybe they're in the ICU for some reason, but they have enteric function, meaning they have gut function. They can have Juice Plus, the capsules opened up, and even the complete in many cases for macronutrient protein down the feeding tube. And doctors will write the order for it once they know it's safe, it's proven. They usually need a quick conversation and something to read by somebody they trust. But when the family is asking for it, it's a way that the doctors can learn about this when they never had a chance to in medical school. And that's a great thing. So it's very, really the only people who can't use Juice Plus are the newborns because they need to nurse, and people who can't eat anything, which are on IV only, they've got to wait until they can have a gut that's working. So
I love, that I hate to bring this to an end because I could listen to you for hours and I can't wait to see you again soon, Lord willing. But we want to keep it short so people will watch this powerful recording. But I think that is a powerful way to end, that it is so effective and so safe that you can actually put it in a feeding tube. I know it has changed our family's health trajectory. And they say that, we pass that on to our kids and then they pass it on to their grandkids. So let's turn this health crisis in America around by, starting with the foundation of flooding your body with plants by the most proven nutritional in the world. Thank you, Dr. Corson. You know how much I love you. I wish I could reach out and hug you.
Oh, it's
you
mutual.
have blessed us, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your time so very, very much. I'm going to stop the recording and thank you a little more.
Thank you so much.